Hi, my name is Jonathan Small from Newton Running, and I'm going to tell you about the 2012 Newton running shoes. First of all, a little introduction to who we are. We're a company from Boulder in Colorado, and we're based in what we call natural running. And natural running for us is barefoot-like running. So what that means is we build running shoes, and we build running shoes for hard man-made surfaces to give protection and cushioning. But we build a running shoe which puts the foot in a more neutral position, which allows the body to be in a neutral position and allows you to run in a more natural barefoot-like running form. So one of the ways in which we do that is when we build our running shoes, we build them with what we call a more level platform. So in a traditional running shoe, you tend to have a bigger drop from the heel to the toe. That will put the foot in an unnatural position, a position which is not neutral, and that affects our body position and affects the way that we run. So a traditional running shoe will encourage you to land on your heel, and when we land on our heel, we're actually braking ourselves, and after we brake ourselves, we need to push off in order to achieve some forward momentum. If we run with a slightly shorter stride and a higher cadence, we're actually able to run closer underneath our center of mass, and that way we're able to avoid the braking forces normally involved in running and transfer our energy much better in a forward momentum. One of the ways that we achieve that is, like I said, with the level platform, and our running shoes have a platform which is more parallel to the ground. This particular model has a drop of 2 millimeters from the heel to the toe. This means that your foot is in a more neutral position, as it would be if you were barefoot standing on the ground. And that means that as you bring your foot down onto the running surface, which I can show you here, since the platform is level, the shoe will come down level and the foot will hit the ground more level because there's no heel to get in the way. We also built our shoes as a type of training tool to help to teach the runner how to run more naturally and to land naturally on the ball of the foot, which is where you land when you run barefoot. And the way that we do that is by placing what we call actuator lugs underneath the ball of the foot, underneath the forefoot. And what happens is that with the actuator lugs being a little bit higher than the rest of the shoe, as we bring our foot down flat and meet the ground, they'll actually make contact with the ground first, slightly before the rest of the shoe, therefore encouraging a more midfoot forefoot strike underneath the ball of the foot. So these will make contact with the ground first, and what actually happens is that this is also our shock absorption cushioning system. It's what we call an action and reaction system. As we land on the ground, our energy gets stored up as the lug moves up into the cavity that you can see here. So our energy gets stored up, and then as we leave the ground, that releases and we get that energy back. So we land, the energy gets stored up, we lever off the ground, and then as we lift, we get that energy back. So you almost get a little bit of a spring in your step as you're running in our shoes. The other important thing to notice about the technology within this shoe is you can see this black line which is placed here directly below the ball of the foot. This is placed there because we have a lot of nerve endings in the ball of our foot which we use to communicate with the ground. We use them to feel how firm the ground is, how hot the ground is, and we adapt accordingly. Since we wanted to build a running shoe with cushioning and protection from man-made hard surfaces, we have material which is between the foot and the ground, and therefore we are interfering with the foot's ability to communicate with the ground. So in order to recreate that ability to communicate with the ground, we placed this piece of material here underneath the ball of the foot, which we call a biomechanical top plate. It's quite a firm piece of thermoplastic, but it's also flexible. And what that means is that as you run, you will feel this firmer plate underneath the ball of the foot. So as the foot lands, the nerve endings in the ball of the foot will hit that plate, feel that underneath. They will then send a signal up to the brain, which says that you're on the ground. We can now release and we can move forward. So that will help to increase your efficiency when running. The other purpose that this has is that it gives excellent support to the forefoot bones, the bones of the metatarsal heads. Often, if in a running shoe where people are running on the forefoot, the running shoes don't tend to have a lot of specific forefoot cushioning. They'll just have some standard industry EVA, and the EVA tends to get compromised and compressed pretty quickly. And what that tends to do is that the foot tends to collapse into the shoe, so it doesn't get a lot of support. That's not good for the bones of the forefoot, the metatarsal heads, because they actually need some support in order to maintain their form across the transverse arch at the front of the foot. And if the foot and the bones of the forefoot are collapsing into the shoe, then they tend to collapse. The bones tend to collapse, and we can have problems with Morton's neurome and some of the nerves getting trapped between the bones. This plate will actually help to support the bones of the forefoot, so allowing them to maintain their natural form and structure, and therefore allowing the foot to maintain good form and good function. The whole shoe is a pretty flexible shoe, okay? And that's because we want to encourage the activation of the stabilizing muscles. If you have a very stiff, stable shoe, we tend only to use the big muscles, the hamstring and the quadriceps and the calf muscle. When we have a shoe that's slightly unstable, it encourages activation of our stability muscles, which then help to support the bigger muscles and help you to be more efficient. In terms of the different shoe models that we have, down here you can see that I have the performance trainers here on my left, your right, and then in the middle here I have the performance lightweight trainers. So this is the men's and the women's, this is the men's and the women's, and over here I have the men's speed racer, which is the MV squared. Okay. If we look a little bit at the technology here, so this is the men's neutral performance trainer and the women's neutral performance trainer. They're called Gravity. We have the action and reaction technology in the forefoot. We do actually also have action and reaction technology in the rear foot, and we also have some carbon rubber on the heel to protect the shoe and give it some longevity. Even though we're not landing on the heel, we still want the heel to come down and rest on the ground after you've landed. And also you will use your heel in order to brake you sometimes when necessary, and therefore this carbon rubber will give a good longevity to this shoe. The other thing to notice about the shoe design is that we have a very anatomical toe box. Gives a lot of room for the toes to spread during landing, and also we have a very flexible material in the toe box which allows the toes to spread whilst running and allows them to work independently of each other, and therefore giving good foot function. It's a very light shoe. The men's Gravity 9 is about 255 grams, which means that it's going to allow you to be very efficient. It's a great all-round shoe for doing your training and racing in. And the usual mileage that we see on this is between 800 and 1,000 kilometers would be a general rule of thumb. I mean, as long as you have still some material on the actuator lugs, you'll still get cushioning out of the shoe. So it has a good lifespan. The basic build-up of the men's and the women's shoe is the same. The women's shoe is slightly narrower, and you'll notice also that the actuator lugs are sized in accordance with the size of the shoe. If we go from our performance trainers, which is our training shoe, to our performance lightweight trainers, this is exactly what the name tells you. It's the shoe which is based on the same technology as the performance trainer, but it's a lightweight version. Okay, so we actually made it lighter not in the forefoot, not by making less cushioning in the shoe, but actually by making the shoe lighter around the heel. Since we want to avoid landing on the heel, making the shoe lighter at the heel will just allow you to be even more efficient in your running gait. Okay. The way that we've done that, if I compare here the men's performance lightweight trainer to the men's performance trainer, you can see that the technology is identical, so you'll get just as much cushioning, just as much shock absorption, action and reaction technology in the performance lightweight trainer as in the performance trainer, but we've made it lighter by removing the carbon rubber from the heel. That has two effects on the shoe. One is that the shoe is lighter and lighter around the heel, so it allows you to be more efficient. The other is that when we compare the heights of this shoe, the heel will come down 1 extra millimeter on the performance lightweight trainers, and this means that the drop on these two shoes is 3 millimeters in the performance trainer and 2 millimeters in the performance lightweight trainer. The shoe is also a little bit lighter around the heel in the upper because we have less cushioning in this area, so generally all of the weight is saved in the rear foot heel area of the shoe, allowing you to be more efficient. This is approximately 30 grams lighter than the performance trainer, so we're down at about 225 grams for this model. The men's and the women's models are essentially identical. The women's will obviously be a little bit narrower, and the forefoot technology will be smaller based on the size of the shoe. This will be an ideal shoe for doing tempo runs, interval training sessions, or races of any distance, up to marathon or ultramarathon. Okay? It gives you a lot of cushioning, a lot of protection, a lot of energy back to the runner. Our action and reaction technology allows the actuator lugs to travel up to 8 millimeters. And this method of cushioning gives you approximately 80% of the energy that we put down in the shoe back again as we run onwards. If you're looking for a shoe which is a very lightweight racer or a minimalist shoe, then we have our new MV Squared Speed Racer. And the MV Squared is a very minimalist lightweight racing shoe. So it has a much lower profile. It's a zero drop shoe, okay, which means that it has no difference between the heel and the toe. It also has less material between the foot and the ground, so you're closer to the ground, but it still has forefoot action and reaction forefoot technology. So even though this is a lighter, more flexible shoe, okay, which is going to allow you to be really efficient in your running gait, it still has action and reaction technology in the forefoot, which is going to help to protect you and also give you a lot of energy moving forward. The action and reaction technology is slightly different. It's our second generation, and as you can see there are 5 actuator lugs and they're a little bit wider on the forefoot, which means that this shoe is very stable in the forefoot. So it's an excellent shoe for racing at shorter distances because it's going to give you a lot of, it's going to give you a very quick response time. It's going to give you a lot of feedback, but it's also going to give you a real stable forefoot and a lot of energy back to the runner. It has some drain holes in case you need to get rid of water during the race, and generally a very light and flexible shoe. In the men's size 9, it's approximately 164 grams, so a very light and very flexible shoe. Ideal for racing, but it could also be an ideal alternative for people who want a minimalist shoe. Most of the other minimalist shoes that are available on the market, or if you want to go barefoot, you get closer to the ground, you get better afferent feedback, but you don't get a lot of cushioning for the forefoot, for the bones of the forefoot. So this particular model will bring you closer to the ground, will allow you more freedom of movement, give you a minimalist style of running, which will encourage you further forward onto the ball of the foot, but this will also give you forefoot cushioning, which I think is a huge advantage with our shoes. Good. So our whole philosophy is about building a shoe which puts the foot in a neutral position, encourages you to avoid landing on the heel by being in a neutral, more parallel platform with the ground, And then the shoe is also a teaching tool which helps to teach the runner how to run more efficiently and land as you would in barefoot running on the midfoot, forefoot, and then give the runner some energy back as they leave the ground. I think the most important piece of information that you should communicate to your customers is that when they run in our running shoes, they shouldn't really be focused on landing on the forefoot. Landing on the forefoot happens as a result of doing other things correctly, and those things are focusing on keeping your stride length shorter and keeping your cadence higher. When you run with a long stride, regardless of whether you are what shoes you're running in or if you're barefoot, you will always land on the heel. So to avoid landing on the heel, we need to put the foot in a more neutral position, which happens in our shoes, but we also need to keep our stride length short and our cadence high. That way we'll stay underneath our center of mass. A little bit like if I'm walking on the spot here, you can see that my knees are lifting off the ground, I'm moving up and down on the forefoot, but I'm staying underneath my center of mass. So a slightly higher cadence and shorter stride length will keep my landing underneath my body, and I'll automatically land on the ball of the foot. So I don't really need to focus on landing on the ball of the foot. The shoe will take care of that. I just need to focus on keeping my stride length short and my cadence high. So that will be the most important thing for you to communicate to your customers. Oftentimes people ask me who the shoes are for, and I would say that the shoes are for everybody who is interested in improving their running form and being a more efficient runner. Running in our shoes will help you to avoid landing on the heel, and when you do that, you can avoid some of the braking forces which are involved in running, and therefore you will transfer your energy much better in a forward direction. So anybody who's interested and open to improving their running form and being a more efficient runner will get a lot of benefit out of running in our shoes. We also need to be aware of transitioning in our shoes. Most people aren't used to running in a shoe with a lower drop, and consequently you need to transition gradually to our running shoes. So therefore we recommend that when you sell a pair of our running shoes to one of your customers, that you advise the customers to run 15 minutes maximum the first time they run in our shoes, keep their existing running shoes and alternate each time between the Newton running shoe and their existing running shoe, and for every time they run in our shoes without problems, they can add 2 to 3 minutes to their run. So they build up gradually for each time they run in our shoes, and they alternate between our shoes and their existing running shoe until they reach the total amount of time that they would like to run in. So for example, if you want to run 50 minutes, build up until you have 50 minutes. Once you have completed 50 minutes of running without any continual problems, then you can start to add intensity into your running as well. That way you'll get a nice gradual transition, and you will adapt your body gradually to the different strain that it puts on your body with having a shoe with a slightly lower drop. Good. Well, that's Newton running shoes. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and if you need to get in contact with me, you can get in contact with me at jonathan.small@newtonrunning.com. Thanks.